Greetings, one and all. Welcome to the show. I'm going to have my guest here soon, who is the fabulous Antti Savinainen, who wrote this book. I hope I said his name right. I've known Antti for quite a while. He's one of the writers for Hermes Risen magazine, which you can find online. There's a few of us different writers on there who write about Gurdjieff, anthroposophy, theosophy, consciousness and such like. So do please check out the magazine. But this is Antti's latest book, Journeys Through the Visible and Invisible Cosmos, which is full of various articles which deal with anthroposophy, theosophy. He's got an essay in here about Judith Van Harle, which is something I'm just about learning about recently. She's quite new in my circle of looking at what different people are doing on their spiritual paths and journeys. His book covers all kinds of subjects, including death, which obviously we will have to face at some time, but also the Tibetan way of facing it. So please enjoy the show. Once again, I recommend this book a lot. I'll be doing a review on Hermes Risen magazine soon. And thank you all for watching in advance, enjoying the show. Hello, Antti. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming and talking to me about your latest book.
Thank you for inviting me, Debbie.
I wanted to first ask you, because we both study anthroposophy and Rudolf Steiner, and you've got as your subtitle in the book, Perspectives from Rosicrucian Theosophy. So is your book, because I've read it obviously, but just for the listener, is it more from an anthroposophical Rosicrucian path that you come, or do you look at the Rosicrucian path of Christian Rosenkreutz?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because in Finland we had Pekka Ervast, who was a theosophist in the first place. He was the founder of the Finnish Theosophical Society in 1907, and then after several crises in the society, he decided to found in 1920 the Finnish Rosy Cross. And he kind of melted together the theosophical stream and the Rosicrucian stream. And Rudolf Steiner was he was well aware of Rudolf Steiner's work, and they met in Helsinki in 1912. And Ervast read his lectures, and they had chats and discussions and so forth. But Ervast was Rosicrucian on his own anyway. But for me personally, I love Steiner's work, and I have read it for more than 30 years, and I've written about it. And I'm always looking for these generalities and commonalities between Ervast and Steiner's work, and I'm learning new things from both, and I respect both, and both were extremely helpful. They were helpers of humanity, I would like to say. And Steiner, of course, was an international figure. In that sense, he was much more well known. But in Finland, Ervast is still quite highly respected among different streams in theosophy as well.
And you talk about Pekka. Is it Ekras? Is that how you say it?
Ervast. Ervast. It's a bit hard to pronounce.
I'd never heard of him until you started writing about him for Hermes Risen magazine, and you've been translating his work. Have you done it as a book, or are you just putting articles out, translations of his work? Is that correct?
I've written articles about his teachings and putting them into modern perspective, perhaps. And then we wrote together, or compiled together with my friends, a book about death and dying. And it was compiled from Ervast's different lectures on the topic, which we use Ervast's words and ideas, but we put them in a chronological order and kind of try to organize them, that the reader is helped in getting the idea of what is dying like in his interpretation, which of course aligns well with the theosophical interpretation as well. And then some other books were translated before I became active in this field, and 2 were published in America. And now we are about to publish a biography of Pekka Ervast, which I translated with my friend, and Richard Smoley, the editor of Quest in Theosophical Society of America, kindly and expertly edited it for us, and I think that it will appear in summer or so. And I'm planning on translating more of his books into English in quite near future.
Well, that's amazing. And Richard Smoley's been a guest on this channel a few years ago. He's written some wonderful books as well. And he actually writes the foreword in your book, doesn't he, as well at the
Yes.
moment? So, you know, very revered guy, as you yourself are. So with the Rosicrucianism, obviously with Steiner saying that's one of the streams, we're trying to bring that into our own lives and our spiritual paths as we go along. But I also noticed you talk a lot about Peter Dunov as well, who was someone I've been researching myself. And I just wondered if you could speak a little bit about Peter Dunov.
My good friend Harry Salman wrote a very nice book about Steiner and Dunov, and he's quite well known in Finland as well, because Harry has visited in Finland and given lectures on Steiner and Dunov, and I think that Harry's interpretation is apt. He sees Steiner and Dunov and Ervast, all of them as representatives of esoteric Christianity, slightly different streams within that umbrella idea of esoteric Christianity, and he sees them as complementary to each other. And I think that Dunov brought something very important in terms of ethical power and how to change people's lives. And he was quite remarkable in that sense. And Steiner, on the other hand, as you know, he has had so many inspirations and he inspired so many feats and gave esoteric lectures. And I think that he was polymath or genius or whatever you would like to call him, amazing person. And Ervast was concentrating theosophy in Finland, even though he knew most of the theosophical authorities at the time. He met Annie Besant several times. He met General Olcott. He met Leadbeater. He met them all, Steiner, and he had correspondence with Alice Bailey through letters and so forth. So he was well connected because he knew so many languages. So he could write in German, in English, he would have been able to write in Latin, for instance. So he knew something like 10 languages. But anyway, at the time he was quite well known in theosophical circles around the world. But that's not the case anymore. Hopefully, we're making a small change to that.
My friend, when I said that I was having you on, asked me to ask you, do you know much about that meeting between Pekka Ervast and Rudolf Steiner? Do we have any records of that, of what was said there, or was it just a private meeting?
Ervast himself wrote about it afterwards in the magazine Rosy Cross, Rosy in Finnish, and they exchanged ideas about esoteric Christianity. And Ervast wrote that after discussing, he realized how deep knowledge Dr. Steiner had. So he had a great respect towards him. And there's this. I'm not sure if it doesn't go back to any sources, but there's one person who knew Ervast well said that they agreed that they should meet more often in this physical world as well, which implies that they might have contacts in the invisible world. But that's a bit apocryphal or something like that. So I wouldn't, because I don't have any historical sources other than this person's statement about it. But I find it quite exciting to think about that, because that hints that these great teachers, they are all brothers together. How else could it be if they are serving humanity and so forth?
It is amazing, isn't it, to think that probably, I know Steiner was a very busy man, very rarely had time to himself, but maybe in those moments when he did, when he was either going up to the Akashic record, maybe he was going, well, I believe it now, that he was going on to some other plane to speak with other people that could also
Yeah,
do that. Maybe, you know, it'd have to be some kind of initiate, wouldn't it? Yeah, he wouldn't be
yeah,
with me or
yeah. Of course, I see both of them as Rosicrucian initiates, both Steiner and Ervast and Dunov and all of them, and I have great respect towards H.P. Blavatsky and the founders of Theosophical movement, and they all were sacrificing their lives for the cause of Theosophy and for the cause of humanity, and that's an inspiration which I'd like to take part in my own little way.
also you talk about Judith Van Harla, and have you ever met her? She's new to me, so I've only been reading about her recently. I just wondered if you'd actually met her in person.
that would be wonderful. But I have a friend, Finnish anthroposophist, who has met her for several times and has been in contact with her. And my friend told me that she is a real deal, and what she is describing is what she has experienced. And after reading her biography quite carefully, I had the same conclusion that this is something that this person has actually went through, and it's quite moving how she describes how she found Rudolf Steiner's teachings and realized that this teacher has provided everything that she has found out on her own and much more. Mm-hmm. So, but of course, it's quite controversial if you tell someone that she hasn't eaten for years and met these high beings on the other plane and so forth. So, but I don't think that it's important about this. Things that what people believe or not believe about eating. What I'm concentrating on is teachings and seeing what kind of inspiration comes through. And I find that I would say it's credible to my mind. But I know that it's controversial in the anthroposophical circles, that not all people in this great movement think that she's reliable in that sense. But that's not my business. I just admire her and her work, and many others.
I know what you're saying. It is. I have it. I often do one-to-ones with people about Gurdjieff, and one of the guys that used to come to me one day had read a biography of him, and then went, "I'm not listening to this anymore. I've given it up because he did some bad things." And I'm like, "What sort of bad things?" And what it was, he'd read about his biography, and I was trying to say to him, the personality is not important. It's the system that he's giving or the teachings. I mean, it'd be the same with Judith Van Hal. If she's putting forward ways for us to help develop ourselves, that's more important than her biography.
Mm. Indeed. And then again, people are not infallible, no matter how highly advanced they are. And we in the theosophical, and I'd like to say in anthroposophical movement as well, we do not have people to kind of idolize them too much. It's easy to go into the trap, but I think that we should look for past personalities, but their higher selves, they are something which are united with Christ, or if you want put it in other words, that's fine as well. But that is more important than that. It's always, you can always find faults in people's personalities if you look in a certain way, but that's not important at all. I completely agree with you. I'd like to see the good in them, and there's lots of that.
Yeah, we don't want to put them on pedestals. So how is the Theosophical Society doing in Finland? Are you do you have a lodge near you?
Yeah, well, in Finland, we have several theosophical streams or movements as in other parts of the world, but I'd like to say that we have especially good relationships with each other. I have friends in Theosophical Society, and we meet quite regularly between the Rosicrucians and Theosophists and other streams as well. And for instance, just in the weekend, I was asked to come to give a lecture in the meeting in the fall when all are together informally. And I know the current General Secretary of Theosophical Society well, and I met him and we've corresponded, and I think there's great respect, and we feel quite strongly that we are in the same mission, or the same task. There aren't too many people who actually want to believe to any society in these days, especially young people. It's quite rare, and I think that people want to be free, and that seems to be the zeitgeist today. So if we have a couple of hundred theosophists in Finland and 200 Rosicrucians and some others, so we need to work together to make something happen.
Because I'm a big believer of, you don't have to be a member of just one society. You could be a Rosicrucian, a Theosophist, an Anthroposophist, but I know some people say, no, you must be only one. But all the streams are coming together anyway, and Steiner brings in the Rosicrucian as well as many other streams. But he's trying to encourage the Rosicrucian. Now, maybe you could speak a little bit more about Steiner's Rosicrucian stream.
Well, I think that it's quite evident if one reads How to Know the Higher Worlds, his masterpiece from 1904, which was extremely well received by the theosophical world. I think he got a Subaru prize for the work. And he later told that, not in general lectures, but to his close friends, that I suppose it was an inspiration coming directly from the higher world, Christian Rosenkreuz. And his idea was that, their idea was that this path could be followed without an external teacher, at least up to a point. So this is the very same idea that we have here in Finland based on Pekka Ervast's teachings, that since we know what to do, we know what ethical ideals we should strive to achieve, at least to some extent, and we know how to meditate, and we know how to serve. So where would we need a teacher? I mean, the teacher will come, but this purification, the path of purification and preparation, is something that everybody can do on their own. Of course, we might get inspiration from the higher worlds and so forth, but it's something that when we have the contact with our own inner spirits, then this real esoteric path can begin. And I think this is something that Steiner was looking for in his masterpiece and his later teachings as well. So what is your take on that?
Well, I think also we're going into the age of Aquarius, which is more of the individual. We've had the age of Pisces, which is all the teachers who have given us the teaching, and now we have to take that and go and do it ourselves. But I think we also need societies to help those that may be a little bit cautious or are not sure of what to do. So they need a society so they're not alone. And because I think it's good to have teachers, but I don't think you should stay with them forever. But someone like Rudolf Steiner or H.P. Blavatsky, we can read all our lives. We can always get something more from them. And I think it's good to go to groups. And especially in London, we have a lot of reading groups where we obviously read the lectures or the books and try to fathom the gist of them, as Gurdjieff would say, because they are quite hard to comprehend. And there's a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of depth in all this. But it's about the being, isn't it? The doing it as well. It's not just the understanding it, not just the knowledge. We have to do this kind of stream, be in the stream. And I think that's where people are feeling a bit lost. So we do need the societies, but also a lot of it's all online now. I see there's more theosophists online than I've seen in a group meeting for a long time, but it's just easier, isn't it, to sit at home and put on the YouTube. Thankfully, we have things like that so that people can find them.
There's a perspective on why we should do work together, be in groups. Not necessarily if person doesn't want to join a society, that's fine, but working together with others. And this comes from one of Ervast's lectures. He said that the age of Aquarius brings very powerful streams, and if person is completely alone, trying to strive in a spiritual path on their own, it may be too strong. These forces might be too great for one person to carry, but with other people in a group which has the same aims, at least more or less the same aims, working together, they can kind of absorb these energies and transform them into useful form to help humanity, even in a small way. And I think there is some wisdom in that together we are stronger. And it goes back to even to the New Testament idea that where two or three of you are together, then I am with you. So this is the idea that people together doing something. So that's why I like to be in contact with the UK Theosophists as well, like Tim White and others. And I joined yesterday the Leeds Theosophical Society lecture through YouTube, because it's quite a burden to travel for one lecture from Finland to England, so it's easier to listen to it. That's fine, because we need to use technology in a good way.
And Tim White has guest on this channel many times, but I also, because I was quite anti all the societies staying on Zoom after 2020. I was like, we need to get groups back together, because I think also, just like what you're saying, we're helping each other. The vibrations of being with someone is totally different from over the Zoom. No, it's lovely to see you and everything, but we're not interacting on that etheric realm as well then, are we?
Yeah, it is important. And we do have a lodge here in where I live, and we meet once in a month, twice in a month, in a general lecture or in our own circle, and we try to do work together, and we invite people to give lectures to in our society as well. And I've visited other places like Theosophical Society to give lectures, and we write to each other journals, and I find that fascinating. It's kind of it started in 1987. Imagine the first gathering together, and the last time it happened was 1912 when Steiner visited Finland. When in Finland all the streams were together. Then it happened again in 1987. So I was actually in the city at the time because it happened in my hometown, but I didn't participate in that one. But I visited the one in 1989, and it was a good experience. I saw it quite early on that this is important, that we from different streams can work together in a brotherly way.
Well, we're actually recording this on the 31st of March. Yesterday was the 30th of March of 2025. It was 100 years to the day of the death of Rudolf Steiner. I actually went to the London Rudolf Steiner house, and there was a grand gathering there. And I see other places were doing it around the world as well, which again was bringing everyone together to try and, obviously we're thankful to Rudolf Steiner, but also to remember what our task is. And actually at that meeting we were doing quite a big talk about what the task of the British is. I don't know if Steiner ever gave a task for the Finnish.
Well, I'm not aware of that, but he spoke about the Kalevala, which is the Finnish national epic, and he saw deep mysteries revealed in that. And that was also Ervast's interest. And he wrote in 1916 The Key to the Kalevala. And I think it was well received in Finland, and it's been available for some time in English as well. And Richard Smoley, for instance, especially liked that because, and I agree with him that it is probably the most esoteric interpretation that he has provided, even if we take into account his esoteric teachings, which have most be revealed by now. So, and Steiner was also fascinated with, and he said that unfortunately he can't read it in Finnish, but he can see from the translation that these mystery images come through. So it does contain these forces of initiation, and he gave lectures on that in Finland when he visited us.
Can you give, this might be too big a thing, but can you give a little bit about what the Kalevala is for those that don't know? I've read it myself in the English translation, maybe just a few sentences of what it's actually about.
Well, it has this myth of how the world began, and that there were 7 eggs. One of them was golden egg, and one of them was iron egg, and so forth. And they're kind of different planes. And then it has 3 different heroes: Väinämöinen, Ilmarinen, and Lemminkäinen. And they can be understood from one key. Using one key, they are kind of these divine forces, which are in 3s always, in Christianity, in other religions as well. And then they are also different types of initiates and different types of initiations. And the great quest in the Kalevala is to find Sampo, which is this magical object which brings all wisdom and prosperity. And in Ervast interpretation, Sampo represents the eternal resurrection body, which is something which took place in the New Testament, but they didn't manage to achieve that at the time because it happened before Christ. But Väinämöinen saw that even though they didn't manage to do that, it was good because when Sampo was broken, but its little pieces went all over the world and helped others in that sense. So it doesn't belong to any one person, but it belongs to the whole world. And Ervast finishes his interpretation by saying that what they didn't succeed was done in the New Testament when Jesus Christ was resurrected. So, and this goes very nicely in hand with what Rudolf Steiner had to say about that Golgotha mystery, as you know.
Oh, it is a beautiful story. And again, with these myths, we have the ancient wisdom is written inside. You have to sort of read between the lines to well, sometimes they're quite hard to understand. I remember the first time I read the Kalevala, I was a bit unsure, a bit like Goethe's Lily and the Snake. I still don't really know what that is trying to tell, but I know it's got something in it.
Yeah, Ervast sees that there are two ways of knowledge in that book. The first is the preparation, which is told in Kalevala that it's works for wages before they can meet this um, maiden of Pohjola, which is our higher self. They need to prepare themselves and they need to achieve some qualities before they can actually be united with their higher selves. That's the idea. And then the wedding can take place. But after the wedding, there's still more process, more initiations coming up, which are described in the Kalevala. So Finns do know about Kalevala, and it's still alive, but without this esoteric understanding of the Kalevala, it may become a bit superficial in this understanding.
Whereas everything, the exoteric side of things does try to dumb things down, doesn't it? And I suppose it's for those with eyes to see and ears to hear to be able to realize there's something more to it, isn't there? The looking deeper and the pondering on what this book's trying to tell us.
Indeed, that is, and what you said earlier is extremely important. If we receive some spiritual knowledge, some higher knowledge through books or intuition or in whatever ways, we need to put it in use. We need to help others. If not anything else, we should show compassion and kindness and help whenever we can. And the more we know, the more we are responsible what we do with our knowledge. So that is the key. If we just keep it to ourselves, it would be a form of selfishness, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because I think it is there for us to share and put out. And like you were saying, it with the fragments of the Sampo, yeah, of going out across the world, for those that can understand or realize there's something to it, it's affecting them as well. It's not just for the Finnish people, and Goethe's Lily and the Snake's not just for the German people, and Steiner's work's not just for what would he be, Austrian? I think he was born in Serbia, actually. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but it's for the whole world, isn't it? This ancient wisdom. As Theosophy says, no religion, no creed, no gender, the ancient truth is for one and all.
That was quite groundbreaking in 1875 when the Theosophical Society was founded, that people are equal no matter what. And it wasn't easy to grasp at the time. And even today, it's not something which is self-evident, even though it's easier for people to understand that the people are the same and we are brothers and sisters together, no matter what. It's a very important, far-reaching theosophical teaching. There's something else which I'd like to mention, that I'm interested in science and how science can have some contact with spiritual science. And there are two such areas which I find especially fascinating. One is near-death experience research, and another is children's reincarnation memories. Those two fields provide very good support for these esoteric ideas of reincarnation and karma and life after death. So what do you think about these?
Well, I was actually at Lampeter University where I did my degree in divinity. And one of my professors, whose name is just slipping out of my head, Paul, I want to say Barker, but I don't think that's right. But he was the head of looking at near-death experiences at the time. So we were delving into a lot of that and looking at hospital records of people, going to speak to people who had the when they were being operated on and say they did pass away, they would suddenly float up and look down. And he was one of those that was putting the picture on top of cupboards. I don't know if you know of this experiment in the operating room, so that those that were going up, they would be the only ones that could see it. And if they saw it and then mentioned it, he's like, you definitely floated out. And the children's one, I've worked with the various people about that. I know there's a professor out, actually he's passed on, I think, but there is a university out in America looking at that, isn't there?
Ian Stevenson.
That's it, yes.
And others who have followed him. Now his successor has now retired, and there's a new person who is leading the department at the moment. By the way, I was interested in life reviews which take place in near-death experiences. And as you know, in theosophical and anthroposophical works, they have been described in detail as well, much earlier than in any scientific paper. And I contacted a researcher in this field and asked if she would be interested in writing an article, a scientific article about this, and she was. And then we got a seasoned uh, researcher from the University of Virginia, Bruce Grayson, to work with us. And now it was just recently accepted for publication. It will appear in the Journal of Near-Death Studies this year, probably. Now it's in post-production. And in that piece, we show theosophical explanations of life reviews, and then we compare these with what the near-death experience research has been able to reveal, and show how well they are aligned, and also what kind of explanations could be proposed. How did the theosophical authors know about this? This is one topic which we deal with. So it was my hobby at first, and now it will be published. And I'm so happy about it that it worked out.
It's a
And
fascinating
very,
subject.
yes, and very grateful for these researchers who wanted to work with me.
Because I think it's obviously helping people who maybe used to poo-poo these kind of ideas to realize, no, there's something to it. We don't just die and disappear after death. There's something, a part of us that continues on and then comes back again.
I think that if there's one thing that we could kind of help others to see in the world we live in, is that this is not all that we see, that there is life after death, because it may help people to reach a bit more ethical outlook of life and understand a bit more deeply, and it might even change the way things are going eventually. And I'm a bit hopeful because, for instance, the idea of karma is now in everyday language. People might say that it's my karma if something happens, even though they don't really mean that it's coming from the earlier life, past lives. But before theosophical movement, they never mentioned it, because it was just known by certain small circles in academia. So it's something that we've achieved as a group of theosophists in the world, but there's much more to do. And I think that the scientific research can help to convince some people that it's worth looking at. I'm not looking for changing their minds in the sense that they should believe what is said in a scientific paper or whatever, but start looking and digging for themselves and perhaps finding out there might be some truth in that.
That's marvelous. Antti, our time's coming to a close. Where would you like people to be directed to? I know you have a YouTube channel where you put a lot of translations and articles up. Do you want to tell us where that is?
Yeah, I will give you, and you could perhaps place it in this interview, and I will give you some other references as well, which people who are interested in this might look further. So I'm so happy that we had this chat and we finally met each other.
Yes, we've known each other for a while, but never actually, well, still haven't met physically, but one day I'm sure something will meet up somehow. But thank you very much, Antti. Anything else you want? What's coming next? Your book, you've got a book coming out in the summer.
Yeah, it's the Ervast biography written by Erik Kuhlman, and I helped to get that into Finnish form and now into English form, and I hope that it will reach people at least who are interested in theosophical history and perhaps in what kind of theosophy he practiced in Finland, and perhaps there are some fragments of Sampo in that work as well.
There will be. I always find people's biographies on that have been on spiritual paths, not just learning about who they are, but they often put forward little gems, don't they, to help us.
Indeed. It was lovely to chat with you. Thank you, Debbie, so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.